major winter storm is on the way this weekend and into next week. In fact, it's going to last for a while here, bringing impacts from 1 to 2 feet of snow for parts of the northern plains and the Midwest. 2 severe storms on the southern end that could include tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds. In this video, I've got the details on everything ahead out of that and more. Let's get into it. I'm going to be mostly using WeatherBell maps in this video. If you want to trial to them, the link is down in the description. Also, don't forget to leave any comments, questions, concerns down there in that comments section and leave a zip code for a localized forecast. Use the timestamps in the description to skip 2 minutes into this video to get to that next storm system, of course, that I hinted at there in the introduction and the title thumbnail for this video. But what we've got going on right now that I'm circling on screen is a system over the eastern United States here as we go Friday night into Saturday. Here we've got rainfall through all of the southeastern states and mid-Atlantic, even some interior New England and northeast snowfall there through parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, interior Maine, especially getting in on some very heavy totals. This is a pretty quick moving system, so we're going to see a lot of that rainfall, maybe some brief thunder as well, push off the mid-Atlantic and southern New England shores throughout the day and eventually towards the evening here on our Saturday. We'll also be watching that very heavy snowfall I was circling there. Again, far northeastern New York, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire through parts of northern Maine getting in on the heaviest of that snow. But look at this. Most of the system is pretty much out of here by the time we're going towards Sunday in the early morning hours, other than a little snowfall and ice still lingering there in Maine. And then it is pretty much completely gone, and we're turning our attention to the next storm system there in the west and central United States by the time we're going towards our Sunday afternoon. Now, here's the rainfall totals from the Weather Prediction Center that are being forecasted. You can really see what we're getting with those heaviest totals right there along that east coast. So from the Carolinas all the way on up there to southern Maine, looking at 1 to 3 inches. Locally, though, in some of these areas that I'm about to kind of hash out here, from parts of eastern Pennsylvania on up through parts of southern Maine, maybe even as well, maybe around 4 inches will fall. But it's really looking like the flood threat is going to stay on the very localized end out of this event. What's not going to be lacking in those interior New England areas, though, is this snowfall you can see from northeastern New York all the way on up there through most of central and northern Maine. We're getting a foot plus of snowfall there indicated by the National Digital Forecast Database. Some of those areas in far east central Maine could get close to 2 feet of snowfall there, so really crazy to see that. That storm is going to become something of the past pretty quickly, though, as we turn our attention towards the west coast and the mountain west as we go towards our Saturday afternoon and evening. Rain and mostly moderate rain, as well as some high elevation snow, especially in the Sierras there as we go throughout the day Saturday. Some of that will also go all the way on up there towards Montana and the Dakotas with a little bit of a stripe of snow up there. You can see some of the heavier areas of snow as we go towards our Sunday, March 24th in the morning. They're in the Four Corners as well as into Montana and parts of North and South Dakota. But this system is really going to strengthen and evolve as we go towards the afternoon and evening here on our Sunday. Look at this. Sunday late evening going towards midnight, even as well as into our early Monday morning. Very heavy snowfall up there over the Dakotas, especially there with a shield of snow into parts of Minnesota, including Minneapolis, going on over there into central Wisconsin, it looks like, out of this model scenario that we're seeing on most of our models at this point. It's going to be a heavy snow event up there. We'll also be watching some of those showers and storms through parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, northern, and even parts of south central Texas for severe weather there, especially with hail threat, as well as a secondary tornado and wind threat that we'll be talking about here in just a minute. By the time we go towards our Monday around 11 a.m., very heavy snowfall looking to continue wrapping around this into parts of South Dakota and Minnesota. You can see some rainfall and some showers and storms all the way down there towards the Arklatex Gulf Coast. Some of that could be severe as we go, especially through parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, western Mississippi, as that low tracks on up there through Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Also notice it turns over from snow to rain during the day Monday into parts of Wisconsin. That will continue with some showers as we go towards Tuesday morning up there. Also watching that severe line of storms possible from Memphis, Tennessee, all the way on down there towards parts of New Orleans as we go towards our Tuesday morning. Could still be dealing with a little severe weather on the southern end of this rainfall event as it really turns over to a all-rain event by the time we go Tuesday into Wednesday, especially along the Gulf Coast. That's where we could see severe weather, rain otherwise, all the way stretching on up there towards Michigan. You can see the tattered remnants of the storm are going to continue to move through the eastern United States, probably as we go through the day Wednesday itself, over a lot of the east. And again, notice how it's falling apart, and most of that energy is being transferred and weakening there over parts of Canada. Now, I'm going to talk about snowfall here first, but again, use those timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead to the severe weather aspect that I'll be talking about in a minute. Starting off in the west, as we go through Saturday and into Sunday, we'll get a good bit of snowfall there in the Sierra range, a healthy 1 to 2 feet of snow in most of those areas there through central California ranges there. And then you can see on over through a lot of the rest of the mountain west here, even in some of the lower elevations, a solid 3 to 6 inches for many of those areas in the blues. Higher elevations, of course, locally picking up to a foot as well. But you can see using the European model here, one of our trusty models that I like to use here on One Nation Weather especially, you can see we're going to get a little bit of initial snowfall out ahead of the main band as we go through the day Sunday. A quick accumulation of 2 to 4 inches in some parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, even northwestern Iowa possible out of that. We'll even see some snowfall start this out in northern Kansas, but remember, that's going to be the focal point for even some severe weather eventually out of this event as warmer air kind of propagates northward there. You can see where the snowfall is going to be out of the system, though, especially as we go through the day Monday, even into our early Tuesday. We're going to watch out for a potential foot of snow being hashed out by the European model there from parts of South Dakota all the way on up there through most of Minnesota and into northern Wisconsin. Even in southwestern parts of Minnesota showing close to 2 feet of snow on the very high end. I wouldn't rule that out locally there. The GFS model also showing a very similar scenario there from far north central Nebraska through South Dakota, southeastern North Dakota, all the way on there through parts of Minnesota and into western Wisconsin. Very heavy snowfall. The GFS painting a similar picture there in southwest Minnesota with places like Marshall, Redwood Falls, maybe getting close to 2 feet, but even on over there towards Minneapolis, far western Wisconsin, in places like Eau Claire and just there westward, showing 2 feet of snow on the GFS model there as well. So that wouldn't be completely ruled out. I think most areas are going to stay closer to a foot, though, if you want to stay on the safe side for your area. And of course, always check weather.gov for your latest alerts and totals. Remember, though, that the snow that I'm circling over here into parts of eastern Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, we will get rain in 40s as we go towards Monday. So stay tuned. We'll still get some model shifts as we get closer to this event. But turning over to severe weather here, Storm Prediction Center already highlighting Sunday, March 24th, 2024 as a potential little severe weather mini outbreak here, maybe over parts of especially Oklahoma going into Kansas. You can see they're all the way on down there to parts of south central Texas there, though we're looking at least a little bit of a chance of severe weather just northwest of San Antonio, but all the way there through Enid, Oklahoma. That's where we're going to get into that level 2 severe weather risk. That level 2 risk continues on up there into parts of Kansas, so if you live anywhere from Pratt, Great Bend, all the way on up there towards Salina, as well as Hill City, all those areas, keep in mind that we have a level 2 severe weather risk out of 5 being issued by the Storm Prediction Center. One thing that we might struggle to get up there is going to be moisture. You can see on the left side of this line that I'm drawing right here, we've got those very dry teens in the dew point department as we go Sunday late evening into our early Monday morning. That means that we've got a dry line setting up, very dry on the left side of that with teens, but those 50s out ahead of this line are going to be marginally conducive for severe weather. Dew points, you normally need them, that moisture content in the low 60s at least to get really big severe weather events. But with the atmospheric profile we have out of this system, with wind shear in place, the low-level jet really kicking on in and kind of creating more spinning updrafts in some of these storms potentially there, we could get a severe weather threat as far north as parts of southern Nebraska, even though the moisture content is on the lower side out of this particular system. Notice as we go, by the way, towards Monday, we're going to continue to watch the severe weather threat and into, as well as into even early Tuesday morning there, especially over parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, as that moisture will be especially prominent there and a little bit on the higher end there than what we see over the plains. But again, this is what's really fueling this whole event. It's this wind shear, the low-level jet coming out of the south, winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere coming out of the west, and the combining of the two will definitely create a little bit of some spin that could impact those clouds here. Now, my severe weather scale that I'm going to be using a couple times throughout the rest of this video goes all the way from 1 to 7, 1 being low certainty but a few severe storms possible, 2 being isolated severe weather expected, likely a wind and hail driven risk. 3 is when you start to get into the increased risk for maybe even all hazards there. Once you get all the way on up there towards the 7, that's where the highest concentration of storms will be with an outbreak likely. We're not looking at an outbreak out of anything, I don't think, as we go Sunday, Monday into Tuesday, but certainly supercells capable of briefly very large hail and a couple tornadoes look possible Sunday evening with that wind threat and potentially persisting even into the night as well here. So if you especially live over western Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, southern Nebraska, watch out for that severe weather risk Sunday evening and into the night. Again, here's that risk continuing eastward into Monday, March 25th, 2024, far east Texas, most of Louisiana, western Mississippi, into southeastern parts of Alabama, or Arkansas, I should say, as well, getting in on that severe weather risk. That's where I've got a 3 as we go towards Monday, tracking the risk for supercells and an eventual line of storms. I think even on towards Memphis, Tennessee, we could get a line with maybe some briefly gusty winds and a brief tornado threat. Tornadoes are not going to be a huge concern out of the system, but some brief ones certainly not out of the question, both Sunday into Monday. There is a very conditional isolated storm threat, even though it's going to be in the 40s on up there over the upper Midwest, I think, as well on Monday. And then as we go into Tuesday, continuing storms are probably continuing close to the Gulf Coast there, and in parts of the southeast as the system weakens overall on Tuesday. So Mississippi, Alabama, southwest Georgia, the western Florida Panhandle, I think you should watch out as we go towards our Tuesday. One other impact we're going to get out of this particular storm system, gusty winds. We've already got high wind watches as I film this on your Friday evening, issued from parts of eastern New Mexico into the Texas Panhandle and most of West Texas, some parts of western Oklahoma, as well as central and western Kansas as well, getting in on these alerts. And you can see why, understandably so. Look at this as we go towards our Sunday in the afternoon here. This is 1, 2 o'clock. Some of those gusts into eastern New Mexico, far west Texas, even in western Oklahoma, western Kansas, are going to be approaching 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. Locally in eastern New Mexico and the far western part of Texas, that's where these gusts look to be the very highest Sunday late evening. With that fire threat also being there, 60, 70 mile per hour gusts not out of the question. Maybe a local one, I'm sure, will hit hurricane force. You can see some of those gusts continuing Monday afternoon over a lot of these areas into the central and eastern United States as this continues. The storm continues to kind of propagate in that direction. By the time we go towards our Tuesday here, looks like wind gusts will continue at least 20 to 30 miles per hour over the Great Lakes. The southern end of this system not looking to have major gusts, except in some of the showers and storms that can develop now. Done talking about the overall precipitation and wind impacts of the storm system, but let's talk about temperatures very briefly here before we close out the video. Sunday afternoon, lots of 60s and 70s over the south central and southeastern United States. Montana into the Dakotas in the 20s, even some teens for highs there Sunday afternoon, so definitely a temperature gradient here from the northern to the southern United States. You can see that really forming with that front Sunday night going into Monday here. Highs into parts of, notice, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois really warming on up there Monday afternoon. So again, that's why I think we could even briefly see some storms Monday afternoon there, even though some brief snow might actually start off this event and actually total up quite heavily there, especially into parts of Wisconsin. Look at this Tuesday. We've got 20s and 30s and 40s over a lot of the Midwest and especially the upper Midwest there. Meanwhile, it's in the 60s, 70s further towards the south and east. And again, you can kind of find your local area, use the key at the bottom, even if your number is not shown here. By the time we go towards the mid to back half of the upcoming week, looking like we'll be warming back up and recovering over a lot of the country, even if we do cool down behind this system. So if you want to stick with me through all the weather ahead, please hit that subscribe button. I deliver consistent, accurate, easy to understand forecasts. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Use a zip code for your very local area if you want that as well. WeatherBell maps trial in the description. That's it for this video. Have a good one, everyone.
One nation weather.